Hey Badgers fans, we're here at Big Ten Media Days here with Jim Polzin. I'm Jason Galloway. We're going to just talk a little bit about kind of what we've heard these last 2 days here in Chicago and kind of some of the news that's come out of today. First off, we learned last week that TJ Edwards was going to be out for a while with a foot injury. Paul Chryst didn't give a timetable for his return right now. It's a blow to this defense, although they do have depth at the inside linebacker position. You have to think, Chris was asked earlier about, this defense with a new coordinator, 3 lost starters in the secondary. Now, they may not have Edwards for the start of the season. Jim, what do you think this defense is going to look like? I mean, I'm sure that you don't think they can replicate what they did last year.
No, it'll be interesting. I mean, losing Joe Schobert and like you said, those 3 starters in the secondary hurts. I think if there's one position they could have absorbed an injury, it's probably inside linebacker, like you said, with guys that some experience there, and Jack Cicci and Chris Orr. So it remains to be seen how long Edwards is out, but I think they can probably absorb that injury for a little while. I'm curious to see what Justin Wilcox kind of fingerprints he has and puts on this offense. I mean, Dave Aranda was a master at kind of creating chaos for opposing offenses. What's Justin Wilcox going to do? Does Vince Beagle kind of have escape the shadow a little bit of Joe Schobert and have a monstrous senior season? The new guys in the secondary, how do they perform? There's just a lot of question marks, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
I think that's interesting what you said about what Justin Wilcox will do to put his fingerprints on his defense, because as far as we know, it doesn't look like the base scheme's going to change much. They're still going to play a 3-4. It looks like the defense may look pretty similar to what it was last year, but it's going to be interesting to see if Wilcox is as aggressive as Aranda was.
Right.
That's something he got a little bit criticized for at USC, is not being aggressive enough, but I think a lot of that comes back to personnel.
Right.
Aranda had guys in the secondary that would allow him to bring guys after the quarterback.
Right.
Maybe they don't this year, so I think that'll be something interesting to watch for. Another topic of discussion here is for Wisconsin is just how difficult the schedule is going to be early in the season. We're getting closer to that September 3rd game against LSU, and then they open Big Ten play with Michigan State, Michigan. They play Iowa and Ohio State early on in the conference schedule too. How do you think this is going to play out? I mean, is this going to be a situation where Wisconsin is, their season's almost over, midway through the season, or do you think they can surprise some people?
That'll be interesting. I mean, I like Paul Chryst's answer today is you can look at it one way where, oh my gosh, the schedule is so difficult, or you can look at it as a tremendous opportunity, and it is that. I mean, you win one of those games early in the season, and suddenly the outlook of the season changes a little bit. So I'm sure that's how Chryst and his staff and the players are going to look at it. The thing with difficult schedules is, how does one loss affect you the next week? If you lose a tough game to a Michigan State, can you bounce back and 7 days later beat a Michigan? And then if you have a couple close losses or tough losses in a row, does it just keep building and building and have kind of a domino effect? So I'm curious, with all the question marks this team has, how this tough schedule will play out. It's going to be rough, and it's going to be early. It's not like this is a team that kind of can build into it. I mean, it's the bullets will be flying fast and furious early on, and they're going to have to play well if they're going to get out of October really with a decent record.
Yeah, and I think also when you look at the fact that we're going to 9 conference games, that's been a topic of discussion here too. And for Wisconsin, who opens up with that gauntlet of the schedule, that's also just one more competitive game in there that they're going to have to play. If this was last year, that they would only have to play 2 from the other division, and either one of the Michigan teams or Ohio State wouldn't even be on the schedule. They'd have a cream puff instead, so that obviously adds to it as well.
I will say one thing. For years, Wisconsin's caught breaks on the schedule.
That's true. Yeah.
So, and Barry Alvarez admitted that not too long ago, is that you really can't complain about this because the schedule's worked out in their favor for years now, and now it's going to be interesting this year having to play Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State.
And Wisconsin and the Big Ten are really on board on making these schedules more difficult to make the quality of the conference better in the long run, to have more quality games. Going to 9 conference games, not allowing teams to schedule FCS opponents, making sure they have at least one Power 5 opponent in the non-conference schedule. I think these, Barry Alvarez actually told me today that he thinks that the Big Ten will probably lose a bowl team or 2 because of this 9-game conference schedule and these new rules. But He said it's worth it when you can, make your conference more appealing to when you're renegotiating TV contracts and things like that, and for college football playoff purposes.
Right.
And they're looking at Big Ten teams and they're saying, he's a guy that's on that committee, and he told me that strength of schedule is very big when it comes to selecting those 4 teams. And if you got a Big Ten team that played 9 conference games and played a big out of conference opponent, I think that gives them a little bit of an edge as well.
It's great for the fans too. I mean, the bottom line is, I think fans want to see their teams play the Ohio States and the Michigan States. So I think this year's schedule is great if you're a fan. Maybe not so great for Wisconsin's record, but we'll see.
And obviously, Jim Harbaugh was sort of the I guess caught most of the attention yesterday with his ball cap and his suit. But I think maybe a little more interesting topic is just the 3 new coaches coming into the league here. We have Lovie Smith at Illinois, Chris Ash, former Wisconsin defensive coordinator at Rutgers, and then DJ Durkin at Maryland. These are 3 programs that haven't seen a whole lot of success recently. Illinois was okay last year, but and Chris Ash has taken over a program that's picked to finish last in the East Division. How do you kind of see these new coaches taking on these challenges, and do you see any of these teams rising up, especially in the case of maybe Illinois, a team that could, if Lovie Smith was successful, could add another challenger for Wisconsin in the West?
Yeah, that's the interesting one. I mean, if you look at just how the breakdown of the East and West divisions are right now, the East is clearly the tougher division. So Lovie Smith, of those 3 new coaches, would seem to have the easiest path to being successful. And Illinois, you've got recruiting areas. Lovie Smith talked today about Chicago being so close, Indianapolis being so close, St. Louis being so close. So he's got kind of a triangle of 3 big cities there that you can pull recruits from. He wants to recruit Texas, that's where he's from. He wants to get guys from Florida. So I think there's a chance at Illinois. I'm interested by that hire. Lovie Smith hasn't been in the college game since 1996, and that's a long time away. He says it's not much different.
I do think it's an upgrade from Tim Beckman.
Well, I agree. I probably would have been an upgrade from Tim Beckman. But it's interesting to see how he'll relate to recruits, and whether his name carries any weight with recruits. I'm interested by all that, but I do think I think Illinois. I hate to use the word sleeping giant, but I think you could win there. I really do. I think the recruiting area is enough. And I went back and looked at some numbers today. The last 14 seasons, 11 of those have been losing records. They're like 29 and 83 in the Big Ten during that span. So it's been an extended run of poor records at Illinois, and so I think I think Illinois fans are probably optimistic. That's maybe the right word to say. That maybe this guy can turn it around, and a guy with an NFL pedigree. We'll see. The other 2 guys, frankly, it's going to be interesting to see. You're competing against a lot of good programs over there. I think DJ Durkin at Maryland probably has a little bit easier of a job than Chris Ash, because the recruiting in Baltimore, you can pull from a lot of areas out there. Chris Ash, there's a lot of good players in New Jersey, but there's a lot of teams that come in there and recruit. Jim Harbaugh has made New Jersey one of his top priorities. So I think Chris Ash, I like him as a coach. I think he's a good recruiter, but he's got a tremendous, difficult job there to win at Rutgers.
That's going to do it for us for now. Make sure you keep visiting madison.com. We'll have a ton of Big Ten Media Days coverage up there Tuesday, and you can go back and look at our Monday coverage as well. We'll be posting a podcast Wednesday morning on all the action as well that you can hear more about. And just follow me on Twitter at Jason_Galloway, and you can follow Jim at Jim Polzin.
WSJ.
Oh, yes.
WSJ.
At Jim Polzin WSJ. Almost gave at Jim Polzin a lot extra followers there. Okay, we'll talk to you guys later.